We understand what it's about.
Their people were dead. They're dead.
There ain't no attaboy after this one. And this is our chance to write our part of the story.
Welcome into the Tiger Kickoff Show. The Ragin Cajuns coming out of the Louisiana Bayou to take on the Tigers this Saturday. I'm Jacob Siciliano, joined by our three wonderful Columbia Missourian beat reporters in Quentin Corpule, Zach Sweet, and Chase Jeems. Guys, last week, KU, all the hype, SEC Nation, 14 years of waiting. The Tigers win, and now they're left with a game against a Sun Belt opponent that is not necessarily greatly anticipated by a lot of people. What are our feelings? What are our thoughts going up against the University of Louisiana?
For Mizzou, there's still a lot to clean up for as well as they played on both sides of the ball against Kansas. I'm namely looking towards the offensive line and the secondary to tighten some loose screws that if they don't against Louisiana and early on in the season, better teams are going to expose, and that'll cost Mizzou at least a couple of games.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the Louisiana matchup, and I think this is going to be a game that's more focused on Missouri, and what we're going to see from Missouri, not as much the opponent, but more so internally what we can expect. I mean, if you've been paying attention to the national media this week, Bo Pribula, Brett Norfleet, Dominic Jadis, all awarded national honors after last week's game against Kansas. Even Kirby Moore was mentioned nationally, and I think this is going to be big for them, especially because Drink pegged them for the negative after last week. After such a big win against Kansas, Drink came out and pegged them, and we'll get into this more, but the national praise is definitely interesting, and I'm excited to see how they follow it up against Louisiana.
Is this a trap game at all, Chase?
I don't think so. I mean, you never want to underestimate your opponent in any game, and you don't want to underestimate Louisiana, but as long as Mizzou does everything well, like it's supposed to, like this should be a pretty simple win. But obviously, looking back at last week, there is a lot to improve on still.
Drink talked week one about establishing an identity heading into UCA. 2 weeks in, do the Tigers have that identity, Quinn?
I think in a way, yes. I think they are able to succeed both, at least offensively, both through the air and on the ground. We just didn't know how much Bo Pribula was going to provide with his arm. Turns out it's quite a bit. He's been one of the best throwing quarterbacks in the entire country, and we saw last week with Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts, both extremely productive days. Now, I think if the offensive line can create some running lanes of their own in the running game and not have to rely on Hardy or Roberts making people miss themselves, I think Mizzou's offense is going to be in especially good shape going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we talked before the season, there was a lot of talk about the defense and how good the defense was going to be this year. And through 2 weeks, the offense has showed up. Not that the defense hasn't, but the offense has really emerged. And we were also talking a lot preseason about who the quarterback was going to be. Nobody knew if it was Pribula or Horn, and Bo Pribula has definitely emerged as that guy. I mean, I saw him in a Heisman list yesterday, which is just
those are ridiculous.
I mean,
in week
it's
two.
I understand it's ridiculous this early in the season, but it just goes to say, like, he has emerged as the guy for Mizzou. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, everything's starting to come together a little bit. I think the defense, there is a lot. We'll talk about it later, but like especially with zone coverage, I think there's a lot of work to be done. But I think we're definitely seeing things come together, and we know who the pieces are this season that are going to really step up and lead this team.
And you're going to continue to see those pieces of the Tigers again take on the Ragin Cajuns. Here's what Drink has to say about this week's opponent.
You know, David Cutcliffe has a line that says, "One fumble in a lifetime is one too many." And so, you know, we can't fumble the football for a touchdown. That put the whole game out of whack and created a real negative sense with the defense. Oh, you're asking for positives. Defensively, I mean, we held them to 3 yards rushing. I mean, I don't know if I've ever been a part of a game where we outrushed somebody by 258 yards and it was that close of a football game. But that was because, again, self-inflicted wounds, not able to affect the quarterback in the pocket, not able to cover in zone cover.
So you heard it from Drink right there. A lot of issues with the Tigers that he brought up. Still a lot of positives, however. Obviously, you beat your arch nemesis, your rival, down 21-6. Can we talk about what the balance is here? Like, is Drink giving the truth on where the Tigers are in terms of improvement, or is he trying to embellish a little bit going into the Ragin Cajuns and trying to give a fire for his team?
I think he's absolutely correct, and it's fair for him to give those areas of improvement because, as he said, good teams win, great teams improve. And if Mizzou does not improve in the areas that were, I guess we would all say, not necessarily bad, but had a few loose screws, as I said earlier, those are going to get exposed by better teams. You can't have consistent coverage busts. You can't have the interior offensive line collapsing as consistently as they did, especially early on in that game. And so that might be okay against the Central Arkansas and Kansases of college football, might not be okay against the South Carolinas and Alabamas and Texas A&Ms.
Yeah, I mean, for as good as Missouri looked offensively and for as good as the running backs looked, I'm going to talk about this, but for as good as the running backs looked, 100 yards from each of them, a lot of that was after contact. A lot of that was making men miss. I think Ahmad Hardy had the most broken tackles in college football last week from PFF.
He's already well over 100 yards after contact
yeah,
this season.
The offensive line, though, like Quentin said, the interior offensive line, there were too many miscommunications. Dominic Jadis talked about this, even after being praised nationally. He had talked about the miscommunications and how they need to fix that. And Drinkwitz talked about that in his presser as well, and the miscommunications, how they need to fix that. So I'm really looking forward to see how the offensive line looks going forward because, like Quentin said, against inferior opponents, they can look one way, but we need to see how they look against SEC teams.
Do you consider Kansas an inferior opponent?
No, I think Kansas has a lot of upside, and I think Kansas is a team that we still don't know a ton about yet because they've beaten two well inferior opponents, and then they went to Mizzou, and I mean, they had Mizzou in a dogfight in the fourth quarter. I think the offense for Kansas is good. I think the defense was banged up, but I mean, I wouldn't consider them so inferior. I think they're going to be solid in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, and you look on the defensive end, there was also a lot of miscommunications, just like the offensive line with the secondary. You look back at that touchdown in the first quarter where Cardinell got mixed up on that play. That was because of communication issues. We know that they can defend the run, and especially in man-to-man coverage, but when it comes to zone coverage, there's a lot of work to be done. You can't give up explosive plays against like these SEC teams that are coming up.
And Drinkwitz was really hard on his guys, offensive line. He kept saying 5 is 1, 5 is 1. How much is it of Drink just doing his job as a coach, just being paid to worry about every little detail and make sure his team is playing to the highest level? And how much is it of everything should be okay with the talent the Tigers have?
No, I think when you're talking about the offensive line, like that is an extremely vital position group in terms of your ceiling and your floor as well. Great Mizzou teams of the past, 2013, 2007, et cetera, have had awesome offensive lines, and that's the foundation for a great offense. If you have a poor offensive line, everything else that's reliant on that offensive line to be great, that goes down at least a level. And so I think if Mizzou is able to figure out this offensive line that we've seen it be really good over these last couple of years, I think their ceiling goes way up, and so does their floor. If they can't, that won't be the case.
Okay, I get it that Eli Drinkwitz is sitting here and telling us that the offensive line is playing terribly, but they had two guys rush for over 100 yards each.
Correct. I will say, specifically talking about the Jamal Roberts 63-yard touchdown, a lot of that was the receivers blocking their tails off on the outside. We saw after the game, top 3 blockers, according to Pro Football Focus, all receivers. And that can both be an indictment on the receivers blocking extremely well, especially on that play. That's a big part of an identity of great rushing teams. That can also be the offensive line has to play better.
Yeah, I think Drinkwitz, I truly believe this. Had Missouri not gotten the national praise that they got, I think we would have seen a different press conference from Drinkwitz on Tuesday.
We used to see Nick Saban do this all the time at Alabama. He'd feed out the rat poison. Do you think that's what this is, Chase, or do you think it's actually what he believes?
I mean, I do think he believes it in a way. I don't think it's more of a concern about this game in Louisiana, what they can do. I think the way they played against Kansas probably gets it done. But when you look at future opponents, I think that you want your team to play the best, and there is some work to be done, I still think.
So we touched on the O-line. Like, where else are there areas of improvement for the Tigers going forward against the Ragin Cajuns?
I mean, we've already talked about it ad nauseum, both early on in this episode and last episode, but the secondary has to clean it up. There were too many open receivers for Kansas. The secondary just caught a lot of breaks in terms of overthrown passes and drop passes. You can't count on that going forward, especially against teams with really good quarterbacks and or really good wide receivers like Mizzou is going to see next week when South Carolina comes to town.
I mean, yeah, Kansas had every opportunity to win that game on Saturday. I mean, in the fourth quarter, Kansas led a game-leading draw to take the lead with 8 minutes left, and Missouri had to answer back, come from behind. And I know they won by 11, but the scoreboard wasn't reflective of the actual game. And Kansas had opportunities. They dropped passes. Emmanuel Henderson had a huge drop late on. Daniel Highshaw had a huge drop late on. I mean, their opportunities were there. They just didn't they didn't convert on the plays. And Drinkwitz talked about that too.
Yeah, there were some passes that Jalen Daniels threw that if he just would have hit his target, they could have led to touchdowns. And you're going to see in the future with a guy like Sellers, he can make those plays, and like you're going to score on that if you can't defend.
We talked a lot about the success and the national praise that is given Drinkwitz some of this pushback that he's putting out. Let's take a look at that national praise, at least the most notable ones. Bo Prabula, Maxwell National Player of the Week, along with the Davy Bryant Great 8 as an honoree. He had over 300 yards passing, a couple of touchdowns. Brett Norfleet leads the SEC in receiving touchdowns for the Tigers. He was honored as the John Mackey Player of the Week with his 2 touchdowns and over 70 receiving yards. Dominic Giudice, Outland Player of the Week for his performance on the offensive line. Again, 2 rushers, both over 100 yards on the ground, in Ahmad Hardy and Jamal Roberts.
Yeah, so Prabula we've talked about a lot. He has looked incredible both throwing the ball and running the ball as well. I think his ability to dice up zone coverage, as we've talked about already, he knows exactly where to go with footballs, and receivers and himself seem to always be on the same page. With somebody like Giudice, we heard over fall camp, he was the glue that has held the offensive line together. Obviously 4 years at Michigan and 1 full year of starting experience with the Wolverines. He received a lot of praise throughout fall camp for his leadership. And then Brett Norfleet, we haven't seen a Mizzou tight end produce this much, I would say at least since Albert O. At least 7 catches, at least 75 yards, at least 2 receiving touchdowns by a Mizzou tight end. Hasn't been done since Chase Kaufman in 2008. Been a long time. But
That is a long time.
If this is able to be a consistent thing, I think that opens up an avenue for Mizzou's offense that has not been open in several years.
2008, a year right after the Tigers ranked number 1 overall. Let's take a look at the ranked SEC matchups this week. Anyone that sticks out to you guys?
I mean, yeah, that Georgia-Tennessee game just pops out, and I'm really, really excited to see the quarterback play from Gunnar Stockton and Joey Aguilar. I think that Aguilar has been better than people thought he was going to be for Tennessee. That's a weird line, too, because Georgia's favored by 3.5 points. I'm just really excited to see how that matchup plays out on the road. Going on the road as a favorite, it's interesting.
Yeah, I could definitely see an upset here. And then I also, the A&M Notre Dame game, I think is pretty interesting too, to see who kind of wins there, especially with Notre Dame coming off that loss.
Zach, how do you feel about your beloved Badgers traveling to Tuscaloosa?
I don't think Wisconsin stands any chance against Alabama on Saturday, unfortunately. I saw a clip, Barry Alvarez a couple weeks ago was saying that Wisconsin was going to be favored in this game, 21-point underdogs. So, I mean...
OU impressed anybody so far this year?
Yeah, John Mateer, I was curious to see how much of his play style at Wazoo would translate to Oklahoma and against other really good teams. And he was playing exactly like he had at Wazoo, although not as productive as he was. Looked very Baker Mayfield-ish in a win over Michigan. I really liked what I've seen from Oklahoma so far.
Yeah, I want to get it on the show because I said it in a clip, but John Mateer, I picked Oklahoma to go to the college football playoff before the season started in a clip on our socials, and I stand by it. I think Oklahoma is a force.
Florida, really tough upset last week. Are they going to get absolutely steamrolled at number 3 LSU, Chase?
Yeah, this might be another loss for them, I'm not going to lie. But they really have to, this would be a big win for them. We'll see if they can do anything in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, Billy Napier has looked questionable through a couple years now. I mean, he's been on the hot seat pretty much since he got to Florida. I mean, you know the expectations that fan base has for that program. So, I mean, I'm excited to see if he can do anything. Lagway's a productive quarterback, so it'll be a good game. I'm interested to see how he looks against Nussmeier and LSU's offense.
And that last game on that list was South Carolina and Vanderbilt. Hey, if South Carolina wins, is there a case for game day?
I think there absolutely is. It would be if Mizzou were to also take care of business against Louisiana, along with South Carolina beating Vanderbilt, you would have 2 ranked SEC teams. Speaking from a game day's perspective, you would be going to a place You've only been once, ever. That was in 2010. When Mizzou, later that night, knocked off then top-ranked Oklahoma. You saw the crowd for SEC Nation. Paul Feinbaum said he had never really seen anything like it for the day before and the day of. I think the crowd would show up and looking at other games on the schedule. There are certainly good cases, Illinois, Indiana, Texas Tech, Utah. Florida, Miami, though? Florida might get killed at LSU. Miami could lose to South Florida at home, so that game doesn't look nearly as intriguing. And then after that, you're looking at maybe Tulane, Ole Miss. Not sure that game has as much juice as a South Carolina Mizzou game would.
I mean, it's a trophy game. Mayor's Cup on the line. Columbia, Missouri, the Battle of the Columbias. I think it makes sense. I really think it makes sense for game day to come here. I wouldn't be shocked at all if both teams win this week, that game day makes its way to Columbia, Missouri.
I gave it up last year for the first time in 5 years. But obviously the Tigers have to take care of business in Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. Zach, what have you seen from this game so far? Like, is it a trap game for you in any way, or is this something that the Tigers are just going to steamroll through?
No, this can't be a trap game. If this is a trap game, there's some serious issues going on. I think that it's true, and it can be said, it might be tougher for Missouri to get up for this one as it's sandwiched in between Kansas and South Carolina, two games you know the Tigers are going to come ready for. So Louisiana, though, if you're looking at their offense, Walker Howard, their quarterback, got injured in the first game of the year when they were trying to make that comeback against Rice. They lost 14-12 to Rice. They have a two-headed punch in Bill Davis and Zylan Perry. It's a two-headed monster in the backfield. But if Mizzou's defensive front looks the way it did against Kansas, I have a hard time believing that those two are going to find the same level of production against Missouri that they did against McNeese last week. So I think Louisiana could be in for a long one come Saturday.
Yeah, I talked with a beat reporter, Shannon Belt from Louisiana, and this has actually happened before to Louisiana. They've had a couple times in the last few years where their quarterback's gotten hurt and they've had to adjust. But with Beal being a freshman, hasn't shown a lot so far. It's definitely holding back this offense, and Mizzou can really take advantage of that.
I mean, Beal went 0 for 6 in the first game. Beal went 0 for 6, and he's supposed to be a pocket passer. So it'll be interesting to see what that. And that was against McNeese. Yeah. And then they ran the ball 45 times.
I don't think they'll pass much.
McNeese, he was 14 of 22 passing, which is maybe good on the surface. He only passed for 86 yards, though. His yards per attempt among qualified quarterbacks, the lowest of everyone in the FBS. He doesn't really test the middle of the field much. A lot of their throws are to the sidelines. And so I think that's where Mizzou can make a killing.
Chase, 14-12 loss to Rice. What did you learn from that about the Ragin Cajuns?
Yeah, I think that was a game that they weren't really expecting to lose, from what I was told. But a lot of things did not go well. You know, the injury with Howard. Like, there's just a lot going on that they weren't expecting, and it didn't go their way. And it definitely is concerning when you're playing Mizzou this week.
And here's a look about how these two teams stack up statistically. Again, you can look just at the third down conversions. You can look at the rushing totals and the passing totals. Rushing similar for both these two teams. Again, the Ragin Cajuns out in the Sun Belt, but it's come through the air for the Tigers. 675 passing yards to 174. What do you guys see on this list?
I'm looking at the third and fourth down conversions right now. I think this is where Mizzou can create a really large advantage. Mizzou has been awesome when they've been behind the sticks. Louisiana has gotten into 3rd and 8 or longer 17 times in its first 2 games. And I think against Mizzou, that is not going to bode super well for them.
Yeah, I see the rushing game too there. They've definitely been able to run the ball this season, but we have seen Mizzou being able to defend that run against Kansas. So as long as they can hold that, they should be okay.
And we'll have our former Missouri Tiger Cotton Bowl winning champion, Tyson Ellison, be able to bring those numbers to life in this newest edition of Sideline Study Hall.
Well, hey, Duke, congratulations for beating Kansas, but now it's time to reel it back in. Because if you don't win this game, there's terrible consequences. Do I think Louisiana is going to be able to stand a chance? No. But if they did, here's how they would win this trap game. Starting with Mizzou's offensive line, right? Even coach came out and criticized the communication in week 1. That's not a good look, especially when the team you're playing against runs multiple different defensive pressures, sometimes on the same play. Watch here. offensive line has to communicate, hey, we've got a blitzer coming. What does that do? That makes it 5 on 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you've got everybody accounted for, right? Except he doesn't blitz. Second guy walks up. Good thing they ran a hard count so they could see it. But now you have to talk about the new pressure that's coming in. And because there's so much variables on that line, the running assignments get muddied up, and even an outside run is tackled for a short game. The entire defense is there at the line of scrimmage or close. Now this makes it a little bit easier. When you see the linebacker coming off the edge here, you're able to communicate that, especially when you have a run play. All you have to do is replace the running back where the linebacker used to be. Because the Mike doesn't fill his gap here, or the middle linebacker doesn't fill his gap, you got a wide open lane down Broadway for a first down. I mean, that's about as easy as it gets. You just replace the linebacker that blitzes. You can do that in the pass game too. Now, this is what we call a simulated pressure. We got the guy walking down. You think, okay, we've got a blitz coming, except it doesn't come from that direction, and the pressure comes from the opposite way. So in a way, you get a 6-man pressure by only blitzing 5, and you steal an extra guy in coverage. The problem is their defense on the back end is not very strong in that one-on-one coverage. This is Rice. Imagine what Missouri's wide receivers can do here in one-on-one coverage, especially with Bo Pribula throwing the football. It's going to be a dangerous game. For their offensive line, too, it's going to be dangerous. Look at this. A 3-man pressure that in like about 2 seconds gets a sack here. So there's question marks there. Our defensive line has been criticized. People think they're not getting enough pressure. This is the game to prove that you're able to force that pressure on the quarterback. Here's another example, right? Right off the edge here, tackle loses the rep, quarterback loses the football, and there you go. A lot of miscommunication in the passing game too. You'll see it here on this play, right? I'm not sure if the receiver messed that up or if the quarterback messed that up, but somebody did, right? So they've had 2 quarterbacks that have combined for 174 passing yards this season. Bo Pribula almost doubled that in week 2. Most of their pass game is these short throws to the perimeter, which will get tackled down very, very early. This is what I expect to see. The pressure is going to force him to try to make a big play down the field, and this is the week that the defense clears up that they're not going to bust coverages anymore. This is the cleanup game because the stadium pulse is high. This is a big venue and a very big game for Louisiana. Unfortunately, they haven't shown the explosiveness on offense to be able to do anything against death row defense. I see Mizzou winning this game pretty handedly. Jacob, back to you.
All right, thanks, Tyson. That's great. The X's and O's, we know them now here as it's time for Take It to the Grave, where these guys will make predictions. Thanks, Tyson, again for his analysis, so we can hopefully make better ones, because all 4 of us got our Take It to the Grave wrong. And if you remember back to our last episode, these 2 guys got spun on the safe wheel. So we're actually going to take off a safe spot because we can't have that happening no more. But you know what? We also probably should be making better projections because Zach and I had to pay. Zach spun on ice bath for his cold take.
Not so fun.
So he got a bucket of ice poured on his head, and I got pretender. So, you know, I got to be my favorite person in the world for a day. How awesome is that? Tyson Ellison. Let's roll the punishment.
What we got, Coach? You know why all your takes were wrong?
No. None of you have spent a day in the shoes of a real athlete. Today, you're going to put on a real athlete's shoes and do a real athlete's workout.
Yes, they are. Missouri Tigers team. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Right, then left, in and out. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Right, then left. Don't mess up the furniture. Don't mess up the furniture, Jacob. What? Dang it.
Here go. Here. Here. Come back. Nice water. What is your co-star, Quentin Corpuel's middle name?
He doesn't have one.
Oh. That is not warm. Holy. Mr. Tyson Ellison, former Missouri Tiger football player. How many sacks did he have his senior year of high school at Boonville High School?
7 sacks.
And here we go again. Oh.
You know, if you just said 6 sacks, Zach, that's all you've had to say. You wouldn't have had a second bucket of ice dumped on your head.
I was so close. And I swear to God, Quentin has told me his middle name before, so.
So that was the worst answer you could have given, was that I didn't have one. If you knew, I had told you something.
All right, well, you know, the Braves,
Even I know
I'd do that.
yeah, I wanted to get some manual for some reason, but don't even get me started.
guys,
Well,
Yeah,
you know what? You didn't have to put on size 13 shoes, all right?
I wouldn't have been so bad. I basically wear those.
Fell like 4 times and hit the face with the football. It's all right though. You got the bath. Let's try to not do that this time though. We'll make our predictions for this week. Hopefully, you guys have done your research, so at least one of us gets a right pick. Quinn, you're betting first.
So Tyson had mentioned, and I had mentioned right before that, Louisiana likes to throw towards the sidelines. Mizzou, at least once over the past couple of seasons, has jumped one of those sideline passes for a pick six. That's what Toriano Pride Jr. did against Murray State last season. I have Mizzou scoring at least one defensive touchdown against Louisiana on Saturday. They are an opportunistic bunch at all three levels. We saw a safety last week. We saw a pick six in week 1 from Dante McClellan. I think we will see another defensive touchdown on Saturday.
I mean, you can probably get some really good odds on that if you want. I mean, it's a pretty good take. It's pretty
You
hot.
live life risky.
The stove is boiling.
I'm not risking my green. So I will risk my personal well-being, but not my paper.
All right. Well, I think Daniel Beal is very questionable at quarterback. We've talked about this, and he's supposed to be a pocket passer. In Missouri's defense, I know the secondary has been a point of emphasis. I think they're going to show up this game. I think against Louisiana, they're going to have 2 interceptions. I got Missouri's defense coming away with not 1, but 2 interceptions this week.
Wow. So you're stealing Quentin's pick from last week that he got half of right. Chase?
Man, I love picking receivers, don't I?
Oh, boy.
It's not Coleman, though. I'm going
You
with.
do a parlay again?
No, I'm sticking with one thing. It's going to be Donovan Lube. He's going to get his first touchdown of his career and the season. I think with it being the circumstances of Louisiana, I think he's going to be able to get a lot of opportunity here and get a score for the first time.
We would love to see it. I get forced into this, okay? Help me. I'm not an analyst like these guys. These guys are smart. I'm not. I've been going in between 2 and 3 Missouri Tiger turnovers for defense. And since you guys gave such great hearty predictions, I think I'm going to go 3. The Tigers get 3 turnovers on defense.
A lot of turnovers, Jacob.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
Let's go scores. Over under our lines here. Vegas is predicting a 38-10 game. The spread is currently at 27.5. What are our thoughts here on the spread for the Tigers?
So I'm going to go Mizzou 45, Louisiana 7. Historically speaking, Louisiana has actually been very good. Since 2019, they actually have the most wins among all group of now 6 formerly 5 teams. Like, they have a lot of success under their belts since 2019 when the aforementioned Billy Napier was there. Michael Desormeaux, bang, got that right, let's go. Michael Desormeaux has taken over, endured some rough patches. They won 10 games last year, competed in the Sun Belt title game. I think it's going to be tougher sledding this year with the lost quarterback in Walker Howard and just a personnel group that I don't think is as good as previous years. So give me Mizzou to both cover the spread, I believe, and for this game to hit the over.
Yeah, if you're a Vegas man, like that's, I know you're not, but that's what it is. Yuzi?
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of backlash for my prediction last week. So with that being said, I think Louisiana is going to score 10 points, and Missouri is going to
You lead
score.
with Louisiana for a reason.
Louisiana is going to score 10 points, and Missouri is going to score 42. I think this is dominant. I think it's I really do think it's a different game if Walker Howard is there. I mean, Mississippi Kid he played at Mississippi last year, coming home to Louisiana, and then unfortunately goes down in his comeback attempt against Rice. I think if he was out there, this game would be more competitive, but I really see Missouri pulling away early, and I got 42-10. So, over.
I've got good news for you, by the way. I heard from our social media manager recently that the Zach Sweet hate for picking Kansas is currently dragging. Whatever dragging means.
All right, let's not. We don't need to bring it up and go back.
That's exactly what it is. It's dragging. It's over.
As much as I'd love to see what happens if one of us picks Louisiana, I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to go 48-10. It's definitely going to cover the spread. Like I've said before, like this is just a game Mizzou should win if it does everything right, and I don't see it really going any other way. So crazier things have happened, but this should be a win.
Yeah, I got the Tigers going 42-7. I think that defense is going to show out. Again, 3 interceptions. That's what I got going. So we're going to wrap things up and see you on Saturday as the Tigers look to start the season 3-0 ahead of SEC play. Thank you guys for watching this episode of the Tiger Kickoff Show. Thanks again to our wonderful Missourian crew and all you guys that took your time to watch this episode. You can catch us on socials and all week, Thursdays and to Mondays.
What's up? This is Marcus Gold, and make sure you watch the Tiger Kickoff show. Let's go!